Without further ado, I would like to introduce Justin McGuire. He is the Missouri Department of Conservation Hunter Education Program Coordinator, and he is going to give us an update on the latest with the department. So, Justin?
Like Stacy said, I am the Education Program Coordinator over Hunter Education and Shooting Ranges for the Department of Conservation. I have been in this role for 2.5 years-ish. Going on 3 years, and I'm going to give you a 2020 recap for the Hunter Education Program in the state of Missouri. It will come as no surprise that it came with a bunch of hurdles. We basically shut down for the entire quarter, ending out our fiscal year, or basically the second quarter of the calendar year. We were essentially shut down as far as programming is concerned. The saving grace as far as the Hunter Education Program was concerned was the all-online availability for ages 16 and older. Folks could still jump online and get their certification if they needed it to hunt in this state or to go out of state to hunt. The folks that were 16 or older still had that availability. And so what you saw was we still had a bump from 2019 to 2020 of almost 1,000 people. So even though we were shut down to in-person classes for an entire quarter, we didn't start back up till July 1st. We were shut down for a whole quarter, and we still had more participants in 2020 than we did in 2019. Of note, 2017, you saw the big jump there between 2016 and 2017. That is when all online became available for 16 and older. And you saw that from 2013 or from 2012 to 2016, we were on this slow decline. And it really has, the all online really has given us a bump and provided an option for folks that they really are taking advantage of. And this is how that breaks down. In 2020, we had 16,304 do it all online. So those are 16 and older. We had 7,512 do it in person. And this is how that breaks down by region. This is skills sessions. So you can see that in the higher populated areas, central Kansas City, southwest St. Louis, we've got more classes, obviously. And then some areas just don't have that many people, so we don't have the need, we don't have the demand for that many classes. Real quick, in 2019, we had just over 600 skill sessions throughout the state of Missouri, in-person skills sessions. In 2020, I believe the number was 527. So even with losing an entire quarter, we were only 80 shy of matching the same number of classes that we did the year before. This was 2020 skills sessions by type. Something that I try to hang my hat on a little bit, I'm really proud of, is the fact that out of the 527 skills sessions that we had in 2020, 244 of them were done as in-school curriculum in school classes. The rest of them, those are the public classes and other private classes, because sometimes there's a Boy Scout troop or something like that. It's not a school program, but it's not necessarily a public program. So I just mark those as all other. Yours would fall into that scenario. So it's not a public class, but it's not a school class. And so here are certifications by type. You notice here that 4,291 of those certifications were in school, and that's in-person certifications. Total in our skills sessions, we did between 7,000 and 7,500, and so like 60% of those were in our school classes. So we only have about half of them in the state, the skills sessions in the state, only about half are in school, but they have a higher average number of students per class because there's 25 or 30 kids going through these classes. So that translates to, about 60% of our in-person skills session certifications being from school classes. One thing that we're going through, you've heard me mention the online hunter education, and understandably so, that's a touchy subject. We get a lot of pushback off of that, and I understand. I hear your cries, but But what we do know is that people learn different now. What COVID has taught us is that there's a public expectation that we meet them where they are. And in a lot of cases, where they are is online. You wouldn't believe, or maybe you would, the response that the department as a whole got to online programming during COVID when everything else was shut down. But when I interviewed for this position, and so we're reaching back 3 years into the history, but when I interviewed for this position, I sat in that room and they asked me the question, what are your goals for hunter education as we move forward? And obviously they were kind of poking around to find out what I felt about the all online option. And I said, I don't want to sacrifice safety for convenience. So just because it's convenient to have an online course, I don't want to sacrifice safety. Safety is always going to be my number one priority. And I also said, whatever changes we make, I want to make sure that they're based on data. I don't want to just make arbitrary policy changes or recommend arbitrary policy changes that aren't based on some sort of hard data. Well, the problem with trying to base this safety element on hard data is, fortunately, hunting incidents are really rare. So for us to have some type of data set that we can analyze to say, okay, well, these folks went through all online and these folks went through in person and this one's safer than that one. For us to be able to come up with any significant data set might take years and years and years. I mean, last year we had 8 hunting incidents in the state of Missouri. None of them were fatal, and 6 of them were self-inflicted. So when you have a shooter victim, you know, you're kind of looking at shooter victim incidents as what you want to base those decisions on. We had 2 of them. How many years of like that would it take to come up with a data set that would be good to make a policy change on? Well, that is not a Missouri-specific issue. There are states all over the country that want to know, is it safe to move to all online hunter education for all ages? Some of them have already jumped the gun and done it, and all reports are that it's working fine. But there are some holdouts like Missouri that we would like to see some data. So International Hunter Education Association and the Wildlife Management Institute are conducting a study, and they've asked Missouri to be part of it. And they are going to study the effectiveness of different delivery methods of hunter education. They're going to have test classes and surveys and analyzing test scores, and we're going to get some real data about how the students in these classes absorb the information depending on how it's taught. I am really excited about that because there's no secret we get a little bit of pressure. Maybe we need to move to all online, but now we're going to have some data that we can say, you know, that may be the time now. Now that the public expectation is set, that we meet them where they are, and now that we've got this data that says it's just as safe, that may be what we find out. We may also find out that 11 and 12-year-olds aren't as safe if they take it online. That's what the study's going to tell us. And so I'm really excited about that. We're going to be moving towards that later this year with some test classes and some surveying. The next item on the list is that YHEC was canceled this year, the Youth Hunter Education Challenge, due to the untimely passing of Dave Brooks, who was coordinating that program. I said untimely, but also unfortunate. That we hated to hear that, and it happened so soon, right before YHEC was scheduled, which it might have been this weekend or next weekend. Was it this weekend? So we decided that it was best to go ahead and cancel it this year. But we have some plans that I would really like to see YHEC take off again. The Missouri Hunter Education Instructors Association, I believe, is going to get involved. They've shown some interest in getting involved and letting YHEC rise to the status that it once was. It used to be a really proud program where hundreds of kids would show up to test their skills on multiple different activities. And the last few years is just, it's been a little bit disappointing. There haven't been very many kids. Some of that is a cultural change. You know, in order to compete in YHEC, there's shotgun and muzzleloader and rifle and archery, and so they've got a lot of equipment that they need to have, or at least have access to. And then there's, you know, the wildlife ID and there are a lot of different factors. And, you know, I think what we see culturally now is that a lot of times they'll pick one thing and they'll specialize in that one thing. But we'll see. We'll see what the future of YHEC holds, but did want to let you know, in case you hadn't heard, that Dave Brooks had passed away and that we canceled YHEC. One other thing, and I'll wrap this up, I really do hope to implement annual regional instructor meetings later this year and for years to come. One thing I hear from instructors in the field is that the camaraderie aspect isn't there, the collaboration. We've had a lot of staff turnover in our conservation educators, and they don't know they're conservation educators anymore. There for a while, when it was outdoor skills specialists, you had guys and gals staying on for 15, 20 years in the same position, and everybody knew everybody. There's been a lot of turnover, and so I really want to implement these regional instructor meetings. And so look for more news to come on that. I've already reached out to our regional education supervisors to start picking some dates for July, August, and September, kind of that time frame. And I'm going to travel around to all of them, and so it'll be good. Always feel free to contact me. My email address is my first name dot my last name at mdc.mo.gov, justin.mcguire at mdc.mo.gov. And my extension's 3833, and I think that works if you call any of the conservation lines for your local office. Just punch in 3833 and you can reach me. All right, folks, thank you. Appreciate it.